Now in the previous video you created a part of the application which allows you to use the rock, paper, scissors function. So you've got a program here for rock, I've added the program for paper and the program for scissors. So I should be able to go to the right side here, hit R, and then R chosen by player, so rock chosen by player, paper chosen by computer, so the computer wins because paper beats rock. So we should see that all this functionality works, but to make this even better we're going to start adding a score system. So to add a score system we're just going to have score equals 0. Now we want a player score, so let's call it user and then score, and let's do a computer score. Now at the moment let's set them to 0 and 0. Now as we go through, if the computer wins we do computer, so what variable do we have here? So computer score, so computer score equals computer score plus 1. So we're taking the computer score and we're adding 1 to it. Now we can copy that. So if we copy that and place it here, let's say, and I also go to computer wins here and do computer score plus 1. So wherever the computer wins, that's where we add computer score. And then wherever the player wins, now if you want to, you can always use spaces between your coding to make it easier to read. Don't be afraid to put more spaces in because the spacing is ignored in Python, so it sees it as an empty space and it will just go over it and read the next line anyway. So user score, like so, equals user score plus 1. Okay, so we've written that, and then we can copy user score and we just paste that with all of them that are the user wins. So player wins here, so user score plus user score, excellent there. And then if it's a draw you don't do anything, so they don't add scores, they don't lose scores, it just stays the same, so you can just leave that one. And like so. So the next thing we need, at the moment we don't have a print, so we want to print out the score at the end. So print user score, print, like so. So let's do one round, let's do S. Okay, so S chosen by player, S chosen by computer, it's a draw, so actually the score remains as 0. Now just another thing that we can add here just to make this a little bit more user friendly is you could have here, let's say print user score is, and then you could print computer score is, like so. So let's run that. And then do R, like so. So R chosen by player, S chosen by computer, so the player wins and user score is 1, computer score is 0. Now to make this even easier to read, what you can do is whenever you're doing a print you can add a blank line. So if you type print and then just with a space in there, it actually adds a space with your program. So sometimes it's a good idea just to have prints like this just dotted around your program, just because it adds some spaces in between. You could also, just at the end of the game, like here for example, I might put like this, and I could even have some lines added, let's say, just to make it a little bit easier to read. I could even type something like this where I put, so totaling the scores, total, let's say. So if I now do R, for example, can you see that already this is starting to look a little bit more professional, where you sectioned it off and you can see that the information is separated. And we've just done that by just adding the print and some symbols very quickly and very easy to do. So we could add one here so that there is a gap between these scores here. If we wanted to, we could even add this underneath, and maybe a little print to say thanks for playing. So you can see that here we've got it looking a little bit better, a little bit more professional by just adding that little bit of structure to it. Now again, it's not looking great. We've added a score, but we've only played one round. What about if the user wants to play more than one round? So what we can do is we can add a function up here. So we're going to add our amount of rounds that the user would like to play. So if we put rounds, and this is going to be equal to input, you like to play. So how many rounds would you like to play? The user puts in the input, and then we're going to do a for I in range. Now, to save us from tabbing all of this, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to drag them up from the print here, because we need this to stay to the far left, because we want this to print out right at the end of our function. So once the loop breaks, which is what we're going to create here, like so, if I select all the way up here, so I've selected from the bottom of the scissors part and just before the score, and draw that up all the way until you get to the user options, because you want them to be able to put in their options, and then just push tab and you'll see that they all tab across. So it's a really easy way of adding this function. So now we're going to do for I in range, and then we just do rounds. And what that will do is whatever number's in here, again we're going to need our int so it recognises as a number, because don't forget that inputs are strings as standard. So let's see what I've done, and a colon there. Now how many rounds would you like to play? Let's say 10 rounds. So R, okay, so S, R, S, there, there. Okay, so it's going to keep going until we're at the end of our rounds, and then it tells us our total score. So you can see that already we have improved and added to our system. So it makes it much better to the user to have more options over the amount of rounds. And again, in the next video we'll have a look at another way to improve this further.